This is Punk Rock and Politics, and today is December 12th, 2017, and this is episode number 46. Let's do this!
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to Punk Rock and Politics. Today we'll be talking with Mario, the guitarist and vocalist from the band The Protected Left, about an organization called Punks with Lunch, homelessness situation in the Bay Area, and the hypocrisy of the religious right.
It's easy, especially on like a state or national scale as far as politics are concerned, to feel ineffectual. It's nice to be able to just, even if it's just like this one additional person that you can help by being the one additional volunteer. It's nice to be a part of that.
Then on Open Mic Slots, we'll quickly talk about Roy Moore. Oh jeez. So let's get to the political mosh pit. But first, here's the news of the week.
Here's what's making news.
And God bless the United States.
Those are sounds from protesters out due to Trump moving the Israeli capital to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv.
After more than 2 decades of waivers, we are no closer to a lasting peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. It would be folly to assume that repeating the exact same formula would now produce a different or better result. Therefore, I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It is time for all civilized nations and people to respond to disagreement with reasoned debate, not violence. Let us rethink old assumptions and open our hearts and minds to possible and possibilities. And finally, I ask the leaders of the region, political and religious, Israeli and Palestinian, Jewish and Christian and Muslim, to join us in the noble quest for lasting peace. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Israel. God bless the Palestinians. And God bless the United States. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Palestinian Mohammed Abbas from Hamas said that Trump is opening the gates of hell with this move. But hey, on the bright side, I guess, isn't that one of Trump's campaign promises? Minnesota Senator Al Franken is going to resign in the coming weeks due to sexual assault charges against him.
Serving in the United States Senate has been the great honor of my life. I know in my heart that nothing I have done as a senator, nothing, has brought this honor on this institution. And I am confident that the Ethics Committee would agree. Nevertheless, today I am announcing that in the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate. I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
In other sexual predator news, Arizona Republican Representative Trent Franks resigns amid sexual harassment allegations. And another House member, John Conyers, will not seek a new term due to, you guessed it, sexual harassment allegations. But in an odd move, he suggests his son should take his seat. I guess we'll see how that goes. And today is the day of the election of the sexually deviant cowboy Roy Moore versus the vanilla Democrat Doug Jones for the open Alabama Senate seat. More on this story and my worthless prediction on who will win at the end of the program. And on this day in rock history, December 12th, 1970, The Doors played their last show with Jim Morrison, the Lizard King, in New Orleans. And that's the news of the week. What's up, my fellow political junkies? I hope you're ready to get your faces melted by this week's featured band. Completely metaphorically speaking, of course. And that's why I'm so proud to present The Protected Left. Protected Left is a punk metal hybrid that perfectly presents the metal aspect while lyrically throwing out socially in-depth lyrics. Protected Left makes you want to headbang and jump into the mosh pit all at the same time. And I had the pleasure of talking with the lead vocalist and guitarist Mario. And not only is Mario the frontman of one badass band, but he also volunteers with an organization called Punks with Lunch. So punk, metal music mixed with direct community action? Of course we gotta talk with Mario from The Protected Left about everything that's going on. So, before we get to the political mosh pit, let's check out one of their songs. Here's Absolution by Protected Left. And that was Absolution by The Protected Left. And I have Mario, the guitarist and vocalist from the band, here on the podcast. What's up, Mario?
Not much. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Thanks for joining the Punk Rock and Politics podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. And so you're a little bit up north from me. You're in California. We're both in California, but you're up in Oakland, up in the Bay Area. So how's the music scene up there in the Bay Area?
I mean, the Bay Area has always been, as near as I can tell, like just great. There's always a lot of bands that are both from here, that move here, and a lot of bands that always make sure to come through the Bay. I moved to the Bay Area about 5 or 6 years ago from Michigan, actually, and that was a huge difference. Michigan's got a great music scene too, but
Culture shock, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, definitely that too, and just like everybody comes to the Bay. Like any band I could hope to see would always make a stop here, which has been fantastic. Like Michigan, it was they did really good, and they're getting more and more bands as like the cities grow. But it always felt like they would either go to like usually Chicago and a lot of times Detroit, but it would also just miss a lot of bigger stuff just because you gotta have to go up into Michigan, whereas like a lot of other spots you could just like Chicago's along the way, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Warped Tour. They've been going for, almost 20 years now. And they're saying 2018 is the last year of the nationwide tour, which I always thought Warped Tour was really cool because it would stop in those little towns and it would bring a bunch of national and local, like, smaller acts to certain states like Michigan, a rural part of Michigan that normally wouldn't get those bands. It's pretty cool how it would bring those bands to it. So it's kind of a shame to see tours like that. And then, like you're saying, you have to go and see these bigger shows, which, of course, cost more money, and you have to probably drive to a big city to go see it, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So... cool. So you started the band Protected Left. Did you start that when you moved out to Oakland?
I'd done a lineup of it while still in Michigan and recorded like the first like full length with that lineup, and was not actually sure what I was going to do when I got out to California, but I ended up just kind of jam with different people for different projects, and I decided, I still got songs I want to play, songs I had written that had been recorded. And I had a friend of mine from Michigan who had moved out here like independently of myself several years prior. So I first contacted with him about playing bass, and then went through the rigmarole of finding additional members.
Yeah, like slowly finding people through the social media or through the band, the local music scene, and there's the ways are endless now. So right now, let me see if I got this right. The current lineup, so it'd be you, and then Anthony on bass, and then Will on drums, and Hendrik on guitar.
Yep.
Cool, awesome, right on. And yeah, dude, your music's cool. It's like a punk metal kind of mashup. I'm not personally a big metal fan, so if I like a song or a band that sounds like metal, I always think it's a really, really cool thing. So because I think it's a good mix. Mash. I really, really enjoyed your stuff.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I did notice you have a bunch of albums. Each one of these are kind of from different, you do a few splits with a few other bands. Are you guys planning on doing a full-length album, or what's the plans with the band, with music going forward?
I think, full length will be the next thing. I am in the process, or we are in the process of, writing everything right now and kind of putting some finishing touches on the first round, and then a second round of stuff, which is still brand new, which we'll work through, and, hoping to have, north of 10 songs out in 2018.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, I imagine meeting up with the new guys and then playing with the new band, new format, that would kind of change the writing structure and kind of the songs or the flow. Have you noticed that?
Definitely. Like, it's we've taken the last couple of months, while putting riffs together and stuff, the band has kind of stopped playing shows just to relax a little. But prior to that, we had been as this 4-piece for about a year and a half, with our second guitar player being the most recent addition. And that was already, I'm going to say, like February of 15. But that was a 2-guitar setup is always something I really, really wanted to have within the context of this band.
Yes. Yeah, you need it for the dueling guitars. I bet that sounds really good, like live.
I think so.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of the dueling guitars. I think that's a dying art form almost in music nowadays.
Yeah, man, and just I mean, it's nice to hear you appreciate that, even as someone who's not like much into metal. Not that that's the sole
That's kind
province
of the main
metal.
place you hear it though nowadays. You don't really hear that very very much. I know it was kind of big in punk back in the 90s, and it was kind of going a little bit more poppy with what was it, like Avenged Sevenfold and a few of those other.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, not my cup of tea, but but we digress. Let's keep moving on. So yeah, a full length, that's going to be awesome. Definitely looking forward to that. I like hearing the bands put all their songs together in a giant thing. You can listen from beginning to end, so I'm glad that you guys are going to do that, and that art form is not going away with with Spotify and the internet. It kind of seems like people don't do as many albums almost, or you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, and that can be, advantageous, especially starting out, young bands, and just not, full-time bands. It can often be expensive to get studio time and everything. So the ability to maybe do like 2 or 4 songs at a stretch has been kind of nice. But yeah, it's definitely a different beast to hear a band's, kind of full output, whether it's like one conceptual piece or not.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Or whether it's just, a few singles with just a bunch of stuff thrown in there. Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, let's check out one more of your guys' songs, and then we'll get into the political mosh pit. So here's definitely, speaking of the dueling guitars and just the epicness of a song, this is SMH by The Protected Left. right, and that was SMH by The Protected Left, and that was one epic song, man. That intro is just pretty epic, so yeah, definitely cool stuff. And you are working, currently with a non-profit organization called Punks with Lunch. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just volunteering with them. They're not like, they don't have like necessarily employees. But yeah, I got involved with the Punks at Lunch after hearing about them in the Bay about 3 months ago. They had done a handful of fundraiser shows at Gilman Street, and I just became aware of them through that and started going to, their meetups to help assemble, food stuffs and lunches that they provide to a couple different homeless encampments out here in West Oakland.
Yeah, and so what exactly does Punks with Lunch? What do they do, and like, what's their main objective?
The two things that they focus on right now is they focus on providing food and spare clothes or donated clothes whenever they can, and they also do harm reduction. On the harm reduction side, they offer a needle exchange, Narcan training for people who qualify, and I'm not 100% sure what those qualifiers are. I usually work on the food side just because I don't have the more of the expertise, I guess, that's needed to provide that training. So they offer, again, on that side, like Narcan training, needle exchange, reproductive health items, and things of that nature. Also, they do like pickups. We always do like needle sweeps in the two areas we stop in. And on the other side, again, they just do like a sandwich, a snack, fruit, water, hygiene products like soap, feminine hygiene products, anything of that nature, to make sure they get provided to as many people as they can account for.
Right.
And that's done through donations, either monetary or the actual items themselves. And they recently got 501(c)(3) status.
Nice.
Which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And also recently received a grant from these sisters of...
Yeah, I was going to ask if they're getting grants or that's really good if they're starting to get grants. Like, get that money. The money's out there to get and to use. So anyone out there who has a great idea, it can be done. It really can be. It's not that hard. And then when you have a good organization like Punks with Lunch like this, people will join and it will grow, because people want to help. And it's so crazy. Down here, you have to let me know if you're seeing the same thing up there in Oakland. Down here in San Diego, I believe it's the city of Chula Vista. I think there's a park there, and they're going out a group down here. I believe it's called Food Not Bombs. I'm pretty sure the Chula Vista division, and they're going to a park and feeding the homeless, once a month or so. And the city council are passed an ordinance saying, oh, you can't feed homeless people at this park. So what they ended up doing, they're going back and did a, kind of defying the city, and they fed the homeless. No one got arrested or anything, but it's just like, where the fuck is the city's priorities if they're passing laws saying you can't feed homeless people? So are you seeing that same kind of pushback from legislation up there in Oakland? Have you noticed any of that?
Definitely, I have not, which has been a huge, huge bonus. And in fact, I've even seen, not as far as legislation is concerned, but just from the community itself, have seen a lot of the opposite. Since I've been going on the distribution runs with Punks with Lunch to the different encampments, we have seen other community organizations just show up. I mean, obviously, during the holidays, that has increased, which is great. But we see it just in general. Like, we saw a church group come out and just have, like, because the stuff we mostly provide like sack lunch type stuff. So it's like cold sandwiches, because we don't have the facilities to make hot food and provide it or to transport it. But one church organization had come out and they had hot plates made up that they just brought out in their minivan, like a group of volunteers from their church, which is awesome. I've seen just like a group of, 3 elderly women just show up to one of the encampments and walk tent to tent. And I think they were just offering water. I've seen things like that. And
that's awesome.
Just had people show up at sites too with like sandwiches they've made for us to hand out. So.
Oh, okay. So donating, they know that you guys are going to be there. They may not have the time or time available to be able to hand it out. So they're donating food to you guys to be able to hand out, which, that's awesome once you see people. And that's kind of what I was saying is people want to help. We want to see our fellow man succeed, but it's also kind of like also a pushback from, the city and a lot of the developers. I'm speaking kind of for down here, is they don't want the homeless problem in downtown. They'll shove them away, or they'll arrest them, or be confiscating their tents that are setting up on the side of the road. So when I've been up to San Francisco, I've seen quite a bit of homelessness up there. So what's your perspective of the homelessness problem in the Bay Area? Is it pretty pervasive, pretty big?
It's massive. I mean, definitely pervasive. And just in terms of what you just mentioned, like as far as like clearing encampment sites and taking tents, there's definitely that here. As far as like, there's, I guess that's always like the threat. If at any given point the city of Oakland decides that an area needs to be cleared for whatever reason they might want to cite, a lot of times I think it's just cited as a health concern. So they come in and they sweep everything out and they take everything, and they take tents and just essentially bulldoze encampments. So I guess in my previous answer, I didn't mean to say that the city is embracing it by any stretch. Just meant to say that, there's
the people of the city are helping. Kind of what you're saying. And then also the city hasn't passed any laws. They're doing it how San Diego has been doing it a while. They're doing it, saying, oh, we're doing all this work with homelessness, X, Y, and Z. But really, they're going and bulldozing down, with their out of the side of their mouth. They're actually destroying these encampments. It's horrible that we don't provide these things. And as a volunteer, I know personally, and I'm sure you've experienced, it's really frustrating going and, it's rewarding going out and helping people. But then when you give them clothes and blankets, and then you see on the news 2 days later that these things are being confiscated and thrown into a dumpster, that's really frustrating, for me, at least personally.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really hard thing to see, considering how difficult it is a lot to some, be able to provide some of those things for people. We've definitely tried to ramp up donations for either monetary or for stuff such as like tents. I mean, obviously that's a big ticket item to get some to donate, or even sleeping bags or pants and sweaters, like anything that, for warmth for the cold season. And to see stuff like that just get, chucked is a, real kick in the teeth.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people on the right, we'll kind of segue into the next topic, and a lot of people on the right who are, they're like, oh, how did those homeless people, or how did those bums get those brand new nice tents? It's like, well, they were donated, first of all, and, you're mad that someone has a tent. It's like you're upset that someone has a tent. Like you're not offended that people are forced to sleep in tents. You're more upset that someone's sleeping in a tent. The whole idea of the right Republican mind state, which has really had an unholy alliance with the religious right, for the past 30, 40 years. And I know a lot of your music touches on religion. So what's kind of your thoughts on the whole religious right, and kind of what they preach isn't really what the Republicans are pushing legislatively?
I mean, it definitely is not. It seems to be kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth on that one. It's easy to rally people behind something like that. It's like, I think like a lot of the is already in place. Like they can preach to a big group by just, putting a cross on their lapel, and it's easy to appear that way, to either garner votes or support of any kind, either monetary or whatnot. And as soon as they have that, they can abandon whatever promises they've made. But it's not as if, some like I guess bigger churches or mega churches, if you want to call them that, I don't see them offering the kind of support that they profess to be about in their religion either. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that, this Republican alliance with the religious right is really much of a contradiction.
Okay. I see where you're going. So you're saying that the religions are already a hypocrisy in and of themselves. So why would they not have an alliance with a political party that's essentially a hypocrisy, more or less? Which that is a good point. And speaking of not preaching what you practice or not practice what you preach, Joel Osteen, did you see that whole thing? Was it Hurricane Harvey, and it went through Houston, and then I believe that's where Joel Osteen, that mega church. Well, I think he's like the biggest mega churches in America, and the Hurricane Harvey went through, devastated the city, and people went to the church, and it was completely empty. And they said it was closed due to flooding, but it wasn't flooded. Did you see all that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they said like people were showing footage on like all kinds of social media feeds. Like it just essentially looked like rain trickling by, and then it took at least like another 72 hours before they responded to say like, oh no, we have sleeping bags, and they had to run out and purchase all these items and make it look like they were setting up for disaster relief, and when in fact they had clearly not been. And I mean, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but you still have your Joe Osteens and assholes of that ilk. But I think there are small contingencies within religious communities that do want to take an active role in helping people.
No, you're completely right. There are small groups that want to help and do good, small religious organizations. I think it's these large, monolithic, I don't know, they're charlatans, essentially. I don't know why the smaller churches don't call these guys out more.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, there's certainly ones among them. I mean, an individual I like to, always follow, and he's written a lot of great books, and was Cornel West, who is obviously a very, very faithful person, but I still, respect the work he does, and I respect his opinion. So I would hate to align him with anybody like Joel Osteen just because they both, say they're religious. I mean, obviously one of them is authentic and one of them is clearly a fucking snake.
Exactly. It's pretty like me. I always considered myself agnostic for the most part, but at a younger age, I was very hostile towards religion and towards other religious people. But over the years, I've grown soft, and I've realized that some people, they need the religion. They need that comfort, and if it gives them comfort, and if it, provides them with morals to live a good life and they become good people, then who fucking cares? But when you have charlatans and assholes, like you said, just fucking snakes, like Joel Osteen up there preaching all this shit, getting money, getting donations from poor people, taking their money, saying, oh, God will bless you. That's really pisses me off. And you're totally right. There are, just like in any, organization, there's the corrupt and then, the non-corrupt. I mean, and then we don't even need to go into like the Catholic Church in the Vatican and that establishment. Oh my God, I mean, we're just only kind of focusing on, the Christian evangelical, right? Once you go into the corruption of the Catholic Church, it's pervasive. That's bad.
And when the God, what's his name? The most recent Pope, when he came in, people were all up in arms, advocating for him. Like
Francis.
He had, his quotes that he released, like, oh, the atheist is a good person, they could still be allowed into heaven. He would allegedly sneak out and help feed homeless, around the Vatican. And essentially, a bold PR strategy.
Yes, and they had to do that after Benedict. I mean, that guy was, I think he was a German. I mean, I think he had some ties to Nazism. That guy was really shady.
The thing is, they're all kind of dark. I mean, even the new guy, like with all these things, they talk nicely about him. I mean, like he's not an advocate for any, women in roles in the church. He's not, supportive of equal rights for marriage. So he has, a whole litany of shit.
Contraceptive. They're still against, that's like the biggest one. Like, God, you're against condoms? Fuck, come on.
And the fact that, I mean, they're still all covering for any kind of molestation charges.
Uh-huh.
And all they get is shuffled. They say, we'll take care of it. We'll police our own. And that's just not the case. And that, like, more than anything else, that was kind of what that song Absolution was about. I mean, it's just, it's a little hard to see
Yeah, I think a lot of people knew the Catholic Church was corrupt and had problems, but once that story broke, it really opened people's eyes to, oh wow, it wasn't just a few bad apples. It was actually a systematic protection of these people, which is just like, that's crazy. Like, your organization is protecting people who are preying on children, and not only, oh, you've done bad, you got to get out of the church. No, oh, you've done bad, we're just going to move you to another location so you could just prey on more children. It's like, wow, like, and then they claim to be a religious organization.
At the very, absolute bare minimum, if they were to try and do anything, you'd think it would be like accountability, but not even that.
Kind of even like, how the police, they're like, oh, yeah, this guy totally shot and killed someone unprovoked, so he's on administrative pay leave until we figure out what's going on. Oh, yeah. Cool. Okay. The Vatican should have been at least, oh, this guy molested a bunch of people, so he's on administrative paid leave, not around any children until we figure out what's going on. I mean, even that's like offensive, but that would have been a better route than what they've done. It's like, wow. But speaking of...
just not talk about it.
Not talk about it, shuffle it under the table, pretend it will go away. But they didn't realize, they thought they were a powerful organization. They didn't realize that once the story broke, they're done. And so now we're even moving into the technological era with social media and, cameras, and you could videotape anything. So kind of keeping on, the whole sexual molestation thing, which is huge right now in the news, which is disgusting. But the Roy Moore, I don't know, have you been following this in Alabama, the Senate race? He's running for Senate, and he's probably going to win. Have you seen about his story?
Oh, yeah. And they were, people were kind of tiptoeing around the issue. And then until they decided that, oh, well, if we don't support him as a party, then he will probably lose the seat to, a Democrat. So then the whole Republican Party kind of has now kind of supported him. The president has supported him, and that's disgusting to say the least.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I heard Trump. He's doing a robocall, so he did a recording, and then they're going to do a robocall of Trump going out and saying how good Roy Moore is and how they should all support him. It's astonishing, and I actually just heard this. I didn't even know this, but apparently he's banned from a mall. There's a mall that he's banned from in Alabama because they think he's a predator or whatever. It's like, how? But yeah, he's going to become senator of the state. But like you just said, they'll vote for him because he's a Republican. Oh, well, yeah, he did that, but he's not a Democrat. Like, what is up with that?
I mean, it's I think it's all about just trying to get what they want pushed through. They need the numbers, and no amount of transgressions is going to change that. He could, if they need him in there to curry votes for larger agendas, they're gonna take it.
Oh, and well, I understand why Trump and Mitch McConnell and the Republican establishment, why they are getting behind him. I mean, they'll get behind war criminals, they'll get behind anyone, is if, like you said, it pushes their agenda. What I was confused about, or what I was kind of saying, is the people in Alabama who are going to vote. I think it's this Tuesday, I'm sure, is the election coming up. So it's kind of baffling to me that a lot of people are going to turn out and definitely vote for Roy Moore over this Doug Jones, simply on the fact because, well, Doug Jones is a Democrat, so we don't want him in office.
Yeah, I mean, and they've done their best is to discredit the claims against Roy Moore, either from outright denial or to say it was 30 years ago, as if that were any kind of defense.
Yeah.
So the kind of cognitive dissonance it takes for a voter to have these two ideas and still vote for them is maybe more common than we like to believe.
Yeah, it really shows the tribalism mentality of politics, because people, they're totally claim to be, Christian, religious types, who, if anything like that was going on in their direct community, they would oust that person. They would have them arrested, I'm sure. But now it's a game. It's a political game. My team versus your team. I'm gonna disregard these things about that person. And I see this on the left also all the time with Franken. We'll kind of go over to Franken. He's resigning. Al Franken. He had a few accusations. A lot of people on the left was saying he shouldn't resign. Trump won't resign, so Franken shouldn't resign. Or, they're electing Roy Moore, so Franken should resign. But I think that's a low bar to set. What's your thoughts on Al Franken situation?
I mean, I definitely agree, and I think it's also kind of a shrewd political move on the Democratic side as well, because they want to be able, I think, to take the moral high ground in this scenario. So if one of their own is accused of the same thing, they want to kind of rid the party of it. So when it comes down to making these claims, if someone were to play the Al Franken card, they can say no. As soon as we heard of this, we asked him to leave, and he left. Whereas the Republican Party knew of Roy Moore's allegations, the Republican Party knew of Donald Trump's allegations, and they continue to support him. I think he should leave, Franken. But I think the big push to get him out has less to do with a moral position than it does to do with a strategic position.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. And same thing with John Conyers, the exact same thing. Nancy Pelosi kind of defended him for a minute, and then once there's huge pushback on the internet, she kind of was like, oh, never mind. Yeah, maybe he should go. So, but another thing, little political conspiracy theory I have heard floating around, which is actually really makes a lot of sense how you said it's more political. Kristen Gillibrand, she's been one of the main pushers for I guess this is a great thing. There's a bill, there's lists, millions of dollars that the government has had to pay out to interns and to people who have been sexually harassed by congressmen or by people who work in Congress, their staffers or whatnot. Or if, a staffer is harassed by a congressman member, they've been paid out millions, but we don't know who was the offender and who was paid out because all of this information is redacted. So Kristen Gillibrand she put a bill trying to change all this, but some are saying that Al Franken was going to run in 2020 against Trump, and Kristen Gillibrand, she was one of the first people to come out and say that he should step down, and all people are also saying she's trying to run in 2020. So by you saying it's political, from her perspective, if that's true, that would be just, a 2-for-1.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the first I've heard of that particular bill.
Yeah, I heard that. Oh, that bill. Yeah, she presented it. Like 3 weeks ago. Of course, it's not going to pass. It's not going to get any traction because, the Republicans control Congress. So, but, the fact that she went out there and was proposing it is a big deal. She also said that there's a huge problem in Congress with sexual harassment in the Congress, in the halls of Congress, essentially accusing a lot of Congress members of sexual harassment, which is a big deal. And I think only a lot more people are going to go down in the coming months.
And I hope so. Yeah. I mean, if the attempt of that bill is to do away with having, names and accounts redacted, name as far as names as, predators. Yeah, that definitely, as far as it being a political strategy, I mean, it's unfortunate that that's what it takes, but it'd be nice to see the guilty parties, because even held accountable. Because I don't like if someone is covered by, Congress as a whole party to pay out these settlements, I'm assuming it's not really coming at defense then for having done anything wrong either. I don't feel like there's a consequence for that, and particularly if their name isn't going to be shared with the greater public.
There's no consequence. So this attitude continues and it keeps going, and because you're not holding people accountable.
Yeah, so that it would be a big step to see something like that change.
Yeah, and I mean, I had no idea that fund even existed until she came out and was proposing this bill to change how it is. And I follow this stuff pretty closely, and I was like, "What? I can't believe that." So, a lot is changing. And like you said, though, it is a bummer that it had to be a political move in order to start ousting people and doing this. But that's what it has to take, I guess. That's where we are. But what's going to happen with the Republicans? Also, going back to them, are they just going to say fuck it and just keep going all in, or are they going to try to reform their party? Who knows?
Yeah, I was blown away when just when Donald Trump won the nomination. I had assumed it was just a media stunt. Yeah. And now they're eating themselves.
Especially how he had to kick Reince Priebus out, and then a lot of General Flynn was lying to the FBI. It's definitely, he had no idea he was going to win. And then he won, and then he had no idea what he was going to do, but he didn't want to take any suggestions from anyone. And I think Bob Corker, the Republican, nailed it the best, saying it's like a adult daycare. I think that's the best thing about it. But
I mean, that Flynn thing, and now God, what was the bank that they're trying to subpoena records from?
Deutsche Bank.
God.
Which actually, Deutsche Bank, totally going on a whole nother tangent, has its own huge problems because they have way more debt and off-sheet balance debt than they do actual capital on hand. So, and God knows how much money laundering and money there's been, because HSBC a few years ago, they found they were laundering money to terrorist organizations. So who knows all this shady shit that if they do subpoena them on this Mike Flynn investigation or the Russian investigation, who knows what else it's going to uncover. So it's really fascinating what's going on right now, just in politics in general, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something I thought I would live to see to this level.
Oh, I know. No, it's shit is literally changing right in front of our eyes. And the coolest part about it is we have this internet, the technology to be able to communicate, create communities, and then you're out there, with the music, you're playing music, and then you're also going and doing the organization Punks with Lunch and actually doing local help, hands-on local help, which that ultimately, here on the podcast, we ultimately always encourage getting down and dirty in your local politics. It's fun to talk about Trump. It's fun to talk about these big major issues. But at the end of the day, getting down and dirty, going and helping people in your community, that's what's really going to change everything. It's grassroots from the ground up. So thanks for doing that, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah, a bit of it, I think, probably comes, it's that kind of volunteers. The reason to do that is different for every volunteer, but from a personal point of view, it's just it's easy, especially on like a state or national scale, as far as politics are concerned, to feel ineffectual. Yep. So it's nice to be able to just, even if it's just like this one additional person that you can help by being the one additional volunteer, it's nice to be a part of that.
Yes, it's rewarding. It's to give, is it definitely, and you're seeing it happen. Like you said, watching the news, it's so you feel like you have no control, but that you do have a control over. So, is Punks with Lunch? Are they only in Oakland, California, or are there other chapters across America, or how does that work?
As they do encourage people. It started in West Oakland, and they had been doing it for over 2 years now. But I have noticed that there are other groups. I think there's one in Denver, and I actually saw one just looking on the internet this morning that there's one that started up in Lansing, Michigan.
Are they just doing it all on their own in inspiration, or are you guys working, coordinating together? Or do you probably aren't too aware?
As far as I know, they're not coordinating together. I mean, at best, it might be just like, if someone in one of the newer towns is starting up, they might ask, "Hey, what are some things that you've done that have helped outreach or to strategize with like city or local government, or just to avoid some of the pitfalls or mistakes that they might have made." in that regards, they might be in contact. But outside of that, I think it's mostly just,
organic
people wanting to start up.
I really think I saw a video on this online quite a few months ago about the Punks with Lunch in Oakland, because but I'm pretty sure. So maybe someone saw a video online or something like that, and then they were like, "Hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to start that in my town." So I think if anyone's listening to the podcast, if they are in the Bay Area, definitely contact Punks with Lunch in the Bay Area. But if you're not, and you think this sounds like a good idea, and homelessness is a big problem in your town, which pretty much every artist I've talked to and band so far all across America and in the UK, they've all said homelessness is a serious problem. So, maybe other people can go and start their own chapters, and it can become an awesome, huge, big organizations, and we can help the homeless and play punk rock music and metal all together. And have a good time. This isn't what about helping each other and listening to fucking good music. That's what punk rock's all about, I think.
Right on.
Cool. Well, hey, man, thanks so much, dude, for coming on the podcast. But before I let you go, can you let everyone know where is the best place that they can find your music, the Protected Left's music online?
We have our website. It's just protectedleft.org. Also, we have a Bandcamp site like most other bands right now. So protectedleft.bandcamp.com. And you can find us on most social media as well. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera.
All the social media.
Yeah. And all of it just kind of links back to one another. So as the music that's available is online, and any new music that will come out in the future will all come out through those channels as well.
Cool. And so when you guys get your full-length album done, shoot it over to me, and we'll have you back on, and we'll talk some more punk rock and politics, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mario, for coming on the podcast. And before I let you go, we're going to play one more song. So here's No Certainty by The Protected Left.
Certainty
Right. Let's give it up for Mario and the band, The Protected Left. Definitely. That music is pretty freaking sweet. I'm glad he came on and contacted me, actually, and it's really cool. Like I said, I've been saying, bands, if you're out there, someone, have them email me or email the podcast, and we'll have you guys on. Because I was like, whoa, I was stoked to hear that music. And that's another thing, I always say all this every time. I love hearing all these new bands and all this new music. It's so freaking awesome. So definitely stoked to hear The Protected Left and learn about that band, and to talk to Mario. It's pretty cool conversation. So and Punks with Lunch, how fucking awesome is that too, going out and helping the homeless people, and then it has that cool spin, the Punks with Lunch. So how cool would it be if we had a big punk rock show and got a bunch of donations, made it free, or all the proceeds went to some homeless organization? I mean, that would be pretty cool. So awesome. But I was listening back to the episode when I was doing editing. I was like, why the hell? It sounds like I was talking out of a tin can. But I think that was the mic I was using. Long story, a bunch of technical shit. So thank you for sitting through that. If you did, I'm happy at least Mario, his mic and the recording picked him up pretty good. But I sounded like I was talking out of a tin can or on like a cell phone from 15 years ago. So definitely thanks. All right, well, here we go. Let's get to open mic's last call. I'm not gonna make this too long because this episode's gonna probably be pretty long as it is. So Roy Moore, here we go. Alabama Senate race. This has been a pretty big deal. This is replacing Jeff Sessions. A lot of Republicans there have been writing in other Republican candidates. That just might split the vote enough that it would give Doug Jones the win. Today is the election, so we will see. Probably when you're listening to this podcast, the election results have already come in. So I will make my prediction, and it's going to be a tough one. I think Roy Moore is going to win by maybe 2%, maybe 3%. Not that much. So close they might even do a recount. But it's going to be close, and I think Roy Moore is going to get it. So hopefully I'm wrong. I was wrong with the Northam, the last prediction that I made on. So far on the podcast, I'm 0 for 1. And this Roy Moore prediction, I would be happy to lose and be wrong. And hopefully I'll go to 0 for 2. And then, maybe I'll just keep picking the loser. That'll be my strategy. I'll give them the bad curse. But definitely, let's see if he's going to win. Hopefully he doesn't. But even if Roy Moore does win by only 2 points, if Doug Jones even gets that close, the fact that we're saying a Democrat is getting within 2 percentage points of winning in the Alabama Senate, that's huge. This is a big deal, because usually Alabama is one of the reddest of the red states. And there's no way, if you would have rewound, a year ago or any time in the recent future and said, the Democrats could win a Senate seat in Alabama, people would have been, no way, you're crazy. So the fact that Doug Jones is this close is a big deal. It's great. However, it really kind of worries me, because this is going to just be like, well, Doug Jones won. If he does win by a couple of percentage points, or if it is super, super close, they're going to just say, well, we can just run any established Democrat, any just classic normal Democrat and win. But I do understand in order to run a 50-state strategy, we have to have liberal, super, super liberal Democrats, in New York and some places, a lot of California and in Oregon. Then you also have to have moderate Democrats, like if you win this Alabama seat, or up in Montana. So you have a lot of places where you can win. However, you have to run more of a a moderate Democrat, and then that really pisses off the progressive base because when you need to get some bills or some things passed. So there's pluses and minuses to it. So we'll see if he wins, and hopefully he keeps fucking piece of shit Roy Moore out of the Senate, because that guy, yes, all the allegations, and pretty sure he's molester, or at least at the very least has harassed several women, but people are overlooking that he's extremely pro-gun, and he's extremely anti-gay marriage and very pro-God, being, we're going to bring God back into the Senate, and, saying how Russian Vladimir Putin isn't that bad because, he punishes the gays, it's like, whoa, okay, so that's why you like Putin? Oh, wow, all right. So yeah, there's a lot more troubling things about him than just he's probably molested or has some nefarious dealings in his sexual life. But even if we look at his policies, they're horrible. They're horrible. And the fact that those policies, if they were put into another person who was scandal-free, those policies would have passed, and we wouldn't even be talking about this election. The only reason why everyone's talking about this election is because Roy Moore is such a piece of shit, and he might lose, which is a big deal. So yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But it really says a lot about the Republican Party, that all the things that Roy Moore stands for and all the policies he would propose, and they would back him if it was in another Republican, or the fact that they still back him now, who he is fucking mind-blowing. So, well, we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong with my prediction and I'll be a 0 for 2. But thanks for checking out the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. We will check you out next week. And yeah, have a great week. Peace out. Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it. All right. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Israel. God bless the Palestinians. And God bless the United States. Thank you very much. Thank you.